Recently on YouTube, there has been a trend of beating various different Pokemon games following some sort of ridiculous challenge that is much more amplified than just a simple Nuzlocke. These challenges typically include using some sort of Pokemon that's perceived as very weak and seeing if you can beat the entire game using said Pokemon. I want to say this whole idea was popularized by PaPaSea, at least he was the first person I ever saw do this with a Ditto, then he did it with a Smeargle, and then he did it with a Slacking. This guy, I don't know how he does this because that must have driven him crazy. And it seems like a lot of people followed suit with very similar ideas, and one idea that I had that kind of started as a joke, but the more I thought about it, it actually seemed like it might be kind of realistic, is what if we push this challenge even further? What if we made the challenge of, can you beat a Pokemon game without pressing any buttons? Now, to put some backstory to this, some rules I want to put in place is you have to be able to do this on an officially released Nintendo console that's not modded in any way, except for maybe to capture video, because I kind of need to capture video for this video. Because I'm sure there's probably a way to play a Pokemon game on an emulator and beat it just by using the mouse to move, so to say, maybe using the scroll wheel for A and B, or maybe even transversely using some sort of vocal recognition to recognize your voice so you don't have to press a button. But I want to see if it's possible to beat a Pokemon game on an officially released Nintendo console, on an official copy of the game, and beat the game. So you might be thinking, see, like, you're kind of dumb. There's obviously no way this is possible. But if we break down every single game and think about it, it might actually be possible. So first off, if we look at all of the original Game Boy / Game Boy Color games of Pokemon, spanning from Pokemon Red up to Pokemon Crystal, these games, impossible. You cannot beat them by pressing any button, because if you look at a Game Boy Color original Game Boy, every single thing on the Game Boy is a button. D-pad is a button, A and B, button, start select a button. It's also important to recognize what a button is. Now, the way that I'm going to interpret a button is something you press down and you have some sort of feedback. So that would mean something like a joystick is not a button, as you don't press it down, and a touch screen is not a button, since it is just not a button, which you might see where I'm going with. So if we continue on to the next generation of Pokemon handhelds, if we go to the Game Boy Advance, which spans from Pokemon Ruby up to Pokemon Emerald, same issue as the original Game Boy games. No touchscreen, no joystick. The closest thing that you can do, actually, now that I just thought of, is with the original Game Boy games, you could technically hook them up with your N64 in Pokemon Stadium, so then you get a joystick to move around, but you still have the issue of not having a way to press the A button, and I'm pretty sure that you need at least the A button and a way to move around in order to actually play a Pokemon game. So we have one step, but we need the A button. Now we move on to the DS era of Pokemon. This is the most important era. Pokemon Diamond all the way up to Pokemon Black and White 2. This is the era of Pokemon where it actually might be possible to beat a Pokemon game without pressing any buttons on an official Nintendo hardware. So let's look at the original DS. First off, we do not have a joystick. That can be remedied by the fact that we can play these DS Pokemon games on a Nintendo 3DS or 2DS, which has the circle pad, which is not a button. It functions just like a joystick for the most part. Then we also have the touchscreen, so we can at least interact with the game and move, which is actually a really, really big plus. Now we have another issue here, is which game do we play? So if we look at all of the DS Pokemon games, the one that I thought of first that I think is actually possible to beat the game without pressing any buttons is Heart Gold and Soul Silver. If you look at Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the touchscreen is actually really, really cool in the sense of you can just press A on the touchscreen and you can actually have an option to click on your running shoes just from the touchscreen without having to hold down the B button. So right there, we have a way to move around, a way to press the A button, and even a way to run. So I'm going to actually hop into a copy of Heart Gold on my 2DS capture card and see if it is actually possible to beat this game and see how far we can get without pressing a single button. All we have to our disposal is the circle pad and the touchscreen. Okay, so here we are. I have the hand cam so you guys can see that I am actually only pressing the touchscreen and the circle pad, which is right here where my left thumb is. So basically, I actually tried doing this and then my OBS crashed and I had to restart it. So one issue that we could potentially run into, if this counts as an issue, is the power button. Now, technically, you do have to press the power button to turn the console on. However, since we're not actually playing the game when we press the power button on, I guess that doesn't really count. I mean, I guess that's up to your discretion. Now, the issue comes when we want to turn the game off. Now, in theory, what we could do is we could just let the console die. Like, we don't have to turn it off. We just let it die. Because we're not pressing a button while the game is on then. So, I guess that's kind of a workaround for it. Now, here, as you can see in the touchscreen, we have the A to touch. That is why I'm saying that Heart Gold and Soul Silver is the most possible game for us to do this on out of any main series Pokemon game, is because of the way the touchscreen works in this game, and because of the way the 3DS and 2DS consoles are. We have this circle pad over here, which allows us to move and select different options and different menus, and I really do think that this is going to be possible. So let's see how far we can get. I'm not going to beat the game in this video. If you guys want to see me beat the entire game, then sure, I can beat the entire game without pressing any buttons. But I just want to get to at least the first badge area, because I feel like if we get that far, then that'll pretty much mean, like, yeah, it is possible to play this game without pressing any buttons, as weird as that sounds. Because at first glance, like, you first hear that question, can you beat a Pokemon game without pressing any buttons? And you're just like, of course not. How are you going to beat any game without pressing a button? And then you think about it, and you see it being done, which is just really bizarre. So we need the touchscreen for this, the stylus as well. I will name myself C. There we go, S-E-A, okay. Put the stylus back down. Make sure we only use the touchscreen and the circle pad. Okay, no triggers as well. I kind of forgot to mention the triggers in the explanation. But yeah, triggers are also buttons because you press them down. So, you know, they count as buttons. But touchscreen, we're not really pressing anything. There's no feedback. When we touch it, there's no sound. The only sound is, you know, our actual thumb hitting the screen. Unlike the A button, which has, you know, that click sound when you press it. And the circle pad, of course, no button. So another issue that I thought of, which was quickly rectified, is take a look at this. If we go to the PC and interact with pretty much any sort of object, you'll notice that we can't press the B button. Typically, when you're in a menu like this, you get out pressing B. At least that's what I do. But there's the cancel option. So I feel like the only way we could possibly get stuck in this game is if there's a situation where we have to cancel out of something by pressing the B button, and there's no option for cancel the touchscreen and we have to press B. That's the only potential issue I can possibly think of. So before the recording failed, I actually got up to the point where I picked my starter. So I'm just going to skip ahead to the starter part, and then I will get back to you guys. So I got my starter. I named it Buttons. I figured that would be fitting because, you know, I can't press any buttons. I also got some more Pokegear stuff from my mom, and we're about to have our first battle. Now, this is another big test because if we're able, and I'm pretty sure we should be able to, have a full Pokemon battle without pressing any buttons, then I'm pretty sure that the rest of the game is going to be pretty easy. I really can't foresee another situation where we have to press a button and we can't just get away with using the circle pad and the touchscreen. So here's our first battle. We set out our button, and we can fight just fine. Click tackle just fine on the touchscreen. And as you can see, this looks like it's fine. We can even run with the touchscreen. Like, this is actually coming up pretty nicely. I've not pressed a single button yet, and it's been like maybe 10 minutes. I don't even know. And there we go. First battle completed. No buttons have been pressed. Also, I picked Cyndaquil just because it's a fire type, and I figured, you know, generally speaking, fire types are the easiest Pokemon to use early game because there's so many bugs and stuff like that that just makes it a lot easier. So that's why I picked it, because like I said, I just want to get into the first gym badge, and I feel like if we can get the first badge, we could probably beat the entire game without pressing any buttons. But of course, if you guys really want to actually see me play the entire Pokemon game without pressing a single button, I will do it. Let me know in the comments, leave a like, show your support, and I will literally play this entire game without pressing any buttons. I'm pretty sure it's possible. We don't know for sure until we actually do it, I guess. So this is what I was talking about with the running shoes earlier, is typically in Pokemon games, if you want to run, you just press the B button. But in this game, you'll notice on the touchscreen I have that little shoe icon. I just press that, and look at that. I'm not pressing any buttons, I'm just moving, and I'm sprinting. So that's actually really convenient, because you can do a lot. Because sprinting makes you go a lot faster, so it makes it a lot easier, and I really do like that. So let's keep on going. Mr. Pokemon's house. What is this? What do you want from me? I made it, forgot one thing. Take a token from me, take it. We got a map card. Okay, I don't think that's important, but it's cool. And look at this, we can pick up items just fine because we have the A button on the touchscreen, which, again, I think that's the only reason why it's possible to beat this game without pressing any buttons, and I think it's the only Pokemon game in the entire series where this is even possible. I made it to Mr. Pokemon's house. I don't think we'll have any issues with this. I think we just mashed the touchscreen. And I feel like someone's going to comment this and be like, oh, but you're technically pressing the A button because it's on the touchscreen. And I guess that is true, as I am, in a sense, using the functionality of the A button. But I'm not physically pressing the button A, which I think still, you know, follows the challenge in a way. No button is being pressed. Literally nothing is being pressed down. I'm touching a screen and I'm moving a circle pad left and right, up and down. Nothing is going, like, in or out, if that makes any sense. So we're making it work somehow. So coming up, we have our first rival battle in a second. I have a confession to make. I accidentally pressed the select button. I wasn't paying attention. I meant to click the touchscreen and I clicked select. I'm sorry. It didn't do anything because select doesn't do anything unless you haven't registered. So I do apologize. A button was pressed, but it didn't do anything. So please forgive me, senpai. So we got our rival battle right over here. I think we're gonna lose this. I don't think you have to win this battle. I think if you lose it, you could just still continue on. So it doesn't really matter. He should have a Totodile because it's gonna be super effective to our fire type. Hopefully he doesn't have water gun. I'm only level 6 too. I don't know what level he is. Hopefully he's like level 6 as well. Maybe we'll get lucky with tackles, get some crits. I don't know. What level is he? Level 5. Okay, so we're good. We have the advantage. We can tackle. You know, for battles, actually, you just need to touch me. You don't need the circle pad at all. Like, you could press to move around, but the touchscreen works just fine. So he has Leer, which is fine. If I spam tackle, I should be okay. Oh, there's a critical hit. Perfect. Good job, Totodile. I mean, button, not Totodile. Alright, hopefully we land, we don't miss, because tackle can miss in this gen. I have missed, actually. And we get the kill. Okay, I honestly thought we would lose that. I feel like that battle is harder in Gold and Silver and Crystal, and it's easier in this game. Maybe I'm wrong. But I remember always having trouble with that battle. And I've played Gold, Silver, and Crystal more than Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so I don't know. So another potential issue I just thought of is things like trees, strength boulders, and rock smash. Typically, well, at least what I do, is I just walk up to them and press the A button in order to cut them. But technically what you could do is you can go into your Pokemon menu and go to the Pokemon with cut, click on them, and there should be an option for cut over here with the summary. Technically you could do that. Also, I just thought of this too. I'm pretty sure I could just press the check button and that'll cut it as well. So we have two ways to cut trees without pressing the A button if we so desire. One of which we can literally not even use the A button functionality and just press the touchscreen, go to the menu and do that, which is actually kind of cool. So yeah, Pokemon was stolen. We got to go here for some reason. So I'm going to name the boy Press because I cannot press any buttons. There we go. Very fitting. I can't even button because my starter is button. That would just be weird. So he's Press in all caps because I forgot to do lower cases. So we got Pokeballs. We can actually catch Pokemon now if we want to. That's kind of cool. Okay, so this is our first like actual trainer battle besides our rival battle. And we made it all the way up north of, what is this, Cherry Grove, I think, whatever it's called. Now, the goal for this video is to get the first gym badge, because I honestly feel like if we can make it to that point, you can beat the entire game. I really can't think of any situation where you wouldn't be able to, and that's just like, you know, I'm sure that most of you people, when you read the title, you're like, of course you can't do this. This is dumb. Like, there's no possible way you can beat a Pokemon game without pressing a button. And then we did it. Well, sort of, you know. We showed that, you know, you can actually make it, you can do stuff without pressing buttons. It's crazy, I know, right? Oh, that was the infamous youngster Joey, too. I didn't even realize. You know, I just hit level 9, and I still don't know Ember. I thought you learned Ember, like, pretty early. I guess not. Maybe it has to be level 10. There's no way that you learn Ember that late. Because Ember would actually help a lot because it's a stronger stab move. And it's just better than Tackle for some people. At least I would imagine. Can I actually check the stats without pressing any buttons? I'm pretty sure I can. Summary? What nature are we? Hasty nature. That is plus speed, minus defense. That's fine. We have Blaze. Our special attack is 17. Our attack is also 17. So that's actually fine. We can get away with that. You know, if we were minus special attack, that would have been kind of bad, because then we would have done less damage with our moves. I'm going to avoid those trainers as well because I need to go heal. I will come back and battle them, and then I guess we just go and challenge the gym, especially after we learn Ember. Possibly catch a Pokemon. I know we could go to the Bellsprout Tower for the gym, actually. I don't think you need to, though. And we could also... Actually, maybe I should. After I learn Ember, I could probably just stomp through the tower so quickly, so I might do that. And then what we can do, actually, is we can head south of the town, and there is a route where you can catch a Mareep. So we could do that to get the type advantage if we really, really want to. But I guess we don't really need to if our button here is a high enough level, right? So in this game, you actually have to do the Sprout Tower first. I didn't realize that. I'm pretty sure in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, you could do it in any order. I guess in this game, they want you to be a higher level, because I know in this game, Falkner's A-Speed Geodude is level 13 versus the level 9 that it was in the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal game. So I guess maybe that's why. But I feel like, you know, I should be able to challenge him, and I shouldn't have too much of a difficult time. One issue we could run into is, I know there's Ghastlies in here, and if my Cyndaquil wasn't a high enough level, no Ember, I would have no way to hit them. So that's kind of interesting. You know, like, we could have got really screwed over here. Luckily, this Bellsprout Tower, since we have Cyndaquil, it should ensure us that we should have a cakewalk for Falkner, because we can just Ember everything except for like the random hoodoos that you see occasionally, and be fine. So I made it to the top of the tower. All that's left is the Elder or the Sage, whatever his name is. And I switched to using the Stylus. The reason being is because if you look at my hands here, right? Holding the DS like this and like twisting my thumb back to constantly be able to press A, it actually starts to hurt my thumb. Which like is I didn't expect to happen. So I'm using the Stylus. It just feels a lot more comfortable. It's still a bit awkward because, you know, I'm holding it with one hand and Stylus with the other. But it's fine. We can manage. So he used the escape route, not route, that's fine. So we gotta battle this guy. He should be pretty easy. My Cyndaquil's level 13. I can't walk, jeez. and then we have Falkner. So Falkner shouldn't be an issue at all. So let's fight this guy. I do believe he's gonna have a Hoot and a Bellsprout. Just those two Pokemon. Oh, he has 3 Pokemon. Maybe he has 2 Bellsprouts, 1 Hoot, or 2 Hoot, 1 Bellsprout. I don't know. Either way, they're really low level, and like the thing about this game is if you start with Cyndaquil, you actually have a pretty decent advantage early on just because of the Sprout Tower and all the bug type Pokemon. You can beat Falkner pretty easily, and then after Falkner, like there's actually kind of a lot of pretty decent Pokemon you can catch, like the Mareep, even a Bellsprout's decent. You actually get a trade Onix. I believe you could trade a. It's next to the Pokemon Center in this town. I think you trade a Bellsprout for an Onix, and you know Onix levels up faster because it's a trade Pokemon. So, you know, if you start with Cyndaquil in this game, you actually get, like, a pretty decent team just off the Cyndaquil alone, which is kind of crazy. That's actually the first damage I'm taking in this tower, because I just embered everything and killed it right away, which is pretty funny. I also believe that Cyndaquil evolves at level 14, so if we get to 14 before the gym, that would be fantastic. And it looks like we actually should be able to, because we do have at least one trainer before we battle Falkner. So we should go into Falkner's battle with a Quilava, assuming that Button evolves at 14. I always forget the evolution. They're different in this game. Like, I know for Kanto, the Kanto starters, they all evolve at level 16, and then they evolve again at 36, with the exception of Venusaur, which is 32. But this game, I think one is 14, one is 16, one is 18, or 17. I don't know. They all, yeah, okay, so it is 14. Yeah, they all evolve at different levels, and then they evolve again. I think one is 32, 34, 36, or something around there. I don't know. Maybe one evolves at 30. I'm not really sure. It is weird how they did that for this game, though, because, you know, these typical starter evolutions is 16, 36, and then some of them they vary a bit, which always confuses me. We got an escape rope here for being the Elder. We can use that pretty easily without pressing any buttons because the touchscreen. I feel like this game in particular is so optimized for the touchscreen because there's so much you could do with it. It's crazy. Like, you look at X and Y or Oras or Sun and Moon, and there's really not that much you do with the touchscreen, especially the Gen 6 games, because the Gen 6 games, it's pretty much just the PSS base and like, super training and whatever. So, I'm going to heal up now. I'm going to go and battle Falkner, and we're going to do it all without pressing any buttons. I'm just going to avoid that other trainer. It doesn't really matter. I think we should have a pretty easy time battling Falkner because we do have Quilava, and I figured, like, I got barely any XP from the first guy, so the second guy will probably give me barely any XP. And I probably wouldn't even get a level up before Falkner. He only has 2 Pokemon, so it's not that big of a deal. So here we go, the first gym battle. Getting all the way this far without pressing a button. Crazy, I know, right? And if we beat it, then... I know I sound like a broken record, but I really do think you could just beat this entire game without just pressing a button. Like, if you get this far, because battles you can do no problem, interacting with the environment you can do no problem, you can even run no problem because of the way the touchscreen is in this game, having the option to run down there, and just like that, we got a KO. Wow, dude. One more Pokemon. It's the Pidgeot. I think he sand attacked us though, so that could be an issue. And it's level 13, so we have a level on it, which is nice. We get the Ember. Is it going to be a 2-shot? That's not going to be a 2-shot. Alright, we do have potions in the back though. So, worst case scenario, we could just spam potions. If we miss, or because, you know, he might potion here as well because, oh, we got the burn. Wow, dude. Oh, he has Roost. That's interesting. I believe when you beat him, you get the Roost TM action now that I think about it. I forget what it was in the original games, in Gold and Silver, because Roost didn't exist in that game. I don't think it did, at least. I don't think he gave you Roost then. Maybe it was like Air Release or something. I don't know. But, yeah, he gives you Roost now, which is kind of cool. You know, the Gen 4 games, they give you some pretty good TMs, the first gym leaders. Like in Gold or Diamond and Pearl, Roar gives you Stealth Rocks, which is a very, very good team for competitive battling. And then transversely in Heart Gold Soul Silver, the first gym leader Falkner gives you Roost, which is a really good TM, again, for competitive battling. Unfortunately, this game, TMs are one-time use, so you gotta be careful with how you use it. And there we go, level 15 on button. No buttons pressed. Crazy. Am I right? Leader Falkner's defeated. First badge has been gotten. And yeah, Bugsy should be easy as well. Another reason why Coal Lava, or Cyndaquil I should say, is a pretty good starter for these games is because, you know, you have the early route Bugs, the Bounce Route Tower, and then you have Bugsy. And you could just power through those. The third gym is going to be Morty, which could be a bit of an issue. No, Morty's not the third gym. Whitney's the third gym. What am I saying? And, you know, Whitney's always an issue for everybody, especially with rollout, because you're a fire type, you know, you're weak to rollout. Kind of an issue. Again, by then you could catch Pokemon that are good against Miltank. You could catch a fighting type, maybe. I don't know. Either way, we did it. We beat the gym. How long did it take us? Now, disclaimer, 53 minutes. Now, disclaimer, I did have to go take my clothes out of the dryer, which took about, like, 10 minutes in the middle of this recording. So, we could say it took us about 45 minutes. 45 minutes to do this with no buttons. So, again, didn't exactly beat the game. Somebody's getting mad. I mean, it's YouTube. Somebody always gets mad at, you know, pointless things. So, we didn't actually beat the game fully. But to answer the question, is it possible to beat the game, to beat a Pokemon game without pressing any buttons? I think it's yes. You know, I feel very confident saying yes. Unfortunately, the only game you can do that in is Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Either way, I'm rambling. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. If you want to see me continue this, stop pressing any buttons, let me know. I can do the hand cam as well, like speedrunners do. And thanks for watching. I'll see you all later. And let me know if you guys try any other games with this challenge. And bye-bye.